Welcome everyone. Today I'll be going over your options for rings in PvP. To start with, I'll go over the two rings that appear on ban lists and why. On PC, the rule for these two rings in solo queue is they should never be combined with a mount combat power that is also on the ban list. So you could use either a hardcore Vault of Stars mini-boss ring or an overpowered mount like Rejuvenating Favor or TV, never both. Now, for private queue matches, these two rings are completely banned. Ring of Air is the strongest ring in PvP by far, and if you give me a sec, I'll show you the tooltip. Now, Ring of Air, as I said, it was the strongest ring in PvP by far. Last time it was tested, it was roughly equivalent to wearing 4 or 5 normal Vault of Stars stat rings at the same time. It procs often, and it's a lot like having a consistent damage version of TV. The damage isn't completely consistent due to it being a 10% damage, a 10% proc chance, but it's close enough to significantly change a player's performance in PvP. If I was to stick Band of Air on my PvP optimized rogue build, for example, it would make me a lot stronger at being able to consistently apply pressure to enemies. This damage sub-roll is something rogue by design is bad at normally, when you compare it to most other classes. And because you can crudely patch this flaw from adding a single item, instead of it being obtained from a class balancing attempt, I would also get to keep the damage sub-roll the rogue class naturally excels at, which is being really good at securing the other DPS classes' kills and dishing out carefully timed high damage quickly. Having both of those damage sub-rolls at the same time, especially in the hands of an experienced player, is overpowered. This ring can also cause already OP classes like Wizard and Fighter to become noticeably stronger than they would be normally as well. Now, if a player is already built badly, or really inexperienced, this ring will not magically make them strong enough to kill the PvP queue. Their build would still have to be built with PvP in mind, and they would need to be playing reasonably well. That said, even in the hands of squishy, inexperienced PvE players, this ring can still have a noticeable, usually negative, impact on match balance. Now, there is another hardcore Vault of Stars mini-boss ring, and that is Ring of Darkness. This ring overall is not as powerful as Band of Air because it does less damage, but it still is extremely OP in some situations. Ring of Darkness reduces your enemy's accuracy by a very large amount, and it is overpowered when used against rangers in particular. Now, I don't have a tooltip to show you guys of Ring of Darkness, but you can probably ask a friend that's run through Vault of Stars to show it to you. Okay, moving on. As you can see, the text block on the side of the screen changed again. Those are the best rings that are safe to run in all PvP content. None of those appear on any of the ban lists. The Red Eyes Glare is one of the two best stat granting rings, which I have here for you. This ring grants 5% more power, and it also grants 2.5% more accuracy. The stats on the ring itself are also excellent for PvP. You get a lot of critical severity out of this ring. The other best stat granting ring is the sky's peaking light. Now I probably can find that for you here. So this is the sky's peaking light. This ring grants 5.5k more accuracy that will be up pretty much all of the time as long as you are attacking. The ring itself also has excellent stats for PvP on it. You get 3k more critical severity and 1k more accuracy. Now, the best bonus from Fair Play rings, for Rogue at least, is the one from the Living Silver Fern. This ring's bonus is the same as the Tanner's Leather ring. It grants you a nice chunk of extra damage that procs on the first enemy to hit you after you've casted Daily Power. For rogues, you get this extra damage exactly when you need it. My Tanner's ring from a long time ago used to finish off a lot of enemies who would otherwise have escaped to fight another day. The downside to the Living Silver Fern ring is that the stats for this ring are not very good. Like, it grants 4.5k combat advantage, but combat advantage is not something you want to prioritize. Like, it's useful, but you definitely want to prioritize your other stats more. Now, the next ring up is the Red Eyes Blind. This one right here. Now, this ring can be a best-in-slot option for ranged classes. It performs reasonably well on rogues, too, because some of our powers are ranged. Overlapping a 3% melee damage ring with this 3% ranged damage ring is really good. This ring grants 4.5k more accuracy too, which are excellent stats for PvP. Now, there's a melee version of this ring, which I can show you here. This is the Queen's Golden Opal ring. This ring performs well on melee classes, but it's not best in slot. Its stats are good in PvP, but it's not the best for PvP. It grants 3k critical strike and 1k combat advantage. As a note on rings for full tank builds, I'm not sure which are the best for that. Probably the Queen's Silver Crowned ring, which is in here, is a solid option for them though. It grants 4.5k more defense. Yeah, it's right here. So this ring grants 4.5k more defense and... oh wait, no, that's not the right one. There it is. There's the real one. So the Queen's Silver Crown ring grants 4.5k defense and 5.5k awareness. Moving on to the next best thing rings. As you can see, the text on the screen changed again. Now, Diamond Ring of Sight and Diamond Ring of Spite +3 are two of the purple Vault of Stars rings. They grant the same 3% ranged and 3% melee damage bonuses that their legendary counterparts grant. They have good stats on them too. Pretty sure I've got them down here, so I'll show you. If it'll let me. Here, I'll just move the text a moment. Okay, so you can see these two rings here. And there's also a Diamond Ring of Flight. why is it not pulling up the bank? Okay, that's very weird. Oh, it's hidden. So there it is. So Diamond Ring of Flight is this is a good defensive ring for PvP. Now to be honest, I don't think very many builds, even tanky ones, are going to be actually using defensive rings. Like, the exception would probably be the people who go pure tank. Now, pure tank is not best in slot for PvP for winning games, but there are players around who like to try to build the most unkillable build they can come up with. They don't do much damage though, so keep that in mind. Now, sometimes other rings break after patches. The other rings that break after patches include ones like this. And these grant more stats than they are intended to. You can hover your cursor over the tooltip of many older rings to check for any that are granting abnormally high stats. These rings usually get fixed eventually, so be careful about balancing your entire setup around them. If they get nerfed, you might have to go through a lot of trouble to redo all your stats. That would be annoying. Now, a note on older, still usable rings. There are more rings than I could possibly hope to list that are still usable in PvP. And if you don't have anything better yet, if you could start out by buying some of the old Tower of the Mage rings off the auction house. There are also several rings from places like Avernus Wastes in the Redeemed Citadel campaign that are decent. I can show you a few of those. These old striking rings of the Master are pretty behind the curve compared to things you can get now. But if you got nothing else, this is decent. It's still got a good damage increase bonus on it. And I can also show you the Tanner's Ring. Those are in here as well. It's the same bonus as that Living Silver Fern one I showed you earlier. Now, if you want to see some of the rings that are from, like, the other places, like here is an Avernus Wastes ring, Ring of Fallen Power. Again, I'll just disappear the text so you can see it. Ring of Fallen Power, and there's also Ring of the Brutal Fiend, Golden Ring of the Herald, which is from Redeemed Citadel. Silver Ring of the Herald's okay, and there's this Ring of the Overwhelms that's good for tanking. So there are some decent old rings still, but if you have the option to get a new ring, like if you can run Vault of Stars, I highly recommend doing so, because that is definitely worth the trouble. The purple ones are pretty easy to get. Now, moving on. Here's some info about the percentage damage bonuses in PvP I wanted to mention. When you do the math for PvE content such as ACT or Paingiver charts, there's a bigger emphasis on your total damage output. In PvP, your total damage output being really high is still generally good and worth paying attention to, but it's far from the whole picture on what is going to make you the most effective at landing kills and winning games. Take the Living Silver Fern ring I mentioned earlier, for example. This ring's damage is barely anything when it comes to measuring your total damage output over the course of a match. It's only up when you have a daily power, and the hit is fairly small, but this ring on a rogue is still a better bonus than a 3% damage increase ring is in PvP. The 3% damage bonus rings are still good overall even for PvP, but they aren't always best in slot for everybody. I'd say percentage damage bonus rings are more likely to be best in slot for some classes than others. I'm pretty sure that's everything, guys. See you next time.